Hello and welcome to another episode of the So Here For It podcast. My name is Amy Mingan and today we're talking all about self-doubt and why you're never ever truly ready. Because this is a topic that comes up all the time in my Q&As that happen inside of Woman of Value, my mastermind community. Most of the women who come and want to work with me, they talk about their confidence. They talk about how do I actually remove this self-doubt so I can show up? How do I become a better speaker? How do I say things with conviction? How do I stop holding myself back? They think that they have this thing called imposter syndrome. And I know it's a bit of an old school term, but apparently 80% of people feel imposter syndrome. And I want to say it's not just a you thing if you ever suffer from it. This is a growth thing. This is to do with your nervous system. This is actually a really positive response. It means that you're actually pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And if you've ever felt like an imposter, when you actually truly have the skill set for something, it means that you're headed in the right direction. Now, first of all, I want to validate your experience. It feels so scary to be seen. If you're not used to doing something new, if it is a new skill set that you're learning, if something doesn't naturally come to you, it is only natural for your nervous system to mount a fear response, to mount a really big panic inside of you that prevents you from going and feeling confident doing it. But if you keep letting self-doubt rule you, you're never actually going to do the thing, right? Like we don't become confident and then go do the thing. We become confident by facing that self-doubt, by facing that fear, by practicing. And most of the time, this confidence comes from an acquisition of skill. It doesn't come from you learning more. And I say this a lot. We don't have an information problem. We have an implementation problem. And what this means is you could learn from a million different mentors. You could buy all the courses. You could learn from a textbook. You could watch YouTube. There's so many ways you can learn and access information these days. But if you don't go and show action after you learn something, you're not going to become more confident. All you're going to do is actually fuel that self-doubt even more. The self-doubt doesn't just randomly disappear one day. The self-doubt, it becomes like a desensitization process. And if you think about it, you're practicing a skill, you get feedback, and then you go again. And then you get feedback, and then you go again. Again, I'm going to go back to like when we first learned to walk. You probably don't remember. But if you ever watch a baby learn to walk, they're very wobbly. I call them drunken sailors. It's so cute, right? But they fall over a lot. They bump their heads. They fall down onto their knees. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they don't. Business is a lot like learning to walk. No little baby is just self-doubting themselves and stopping themselves from actually walking though. They figure it out eventually, most of the time, the vast majority of the time. And your business is no different. If you are finding a gap in your skill set, what you need to do is practice. And you will build quality through quantity. So think about it. Let's say that you're learning to speak to camera. I had to learn to speak to camera too. Back in the day, I was very scared of speaking to camera. And now it is the most normal thing that I ever did do. I can speak to crowds. I can speak to people I don't know. I can speak to people online. I can speak to people offline because I've desensitized that fear process that used to be so prominent in my nervous system when I went to speak. You become more articulate by articulating what you want to say more often. You become more confident by showing up and learning that skill. So the self-doubt is merely the gap. It's the gap in the nervous system. And if your nervous system is in this constant fight or flight response, keep meeting it. Find a way that you could potentially calm yourself down, go through the experience in a small way, and then get some feedback and then go again. Now, how I teach, I'm going to give you a really easy way. If we're going to use the talk to camera example, let's think of it this way. You could set your camera up. It could be in a tripod. Make sure it's in a well-lit environment. Make sure you feel comfortable. And make sure it's on a topic that you genuinely want to talk about. Because if you're trying to learn a new topic and then you're trying to talk about something, you're trying to do too many things at once. So what I would suggest is write out 5 things you definitely want to say about that. and then have a little Post-it, and you might have that stuck on something right near you. I currently don't have notes about this podcast. This is merely a theme that comes up over and over again that I want to speak to today, right? So I've talked about it enough. I've answered enough questions. I've been through it myself enough that I want to talk about talking to camera and how you can become better at talking to camera. So you've got your dot points. Then you hit record on your phone. You stand or you sit in front of it and then just start talking. You might be talking for quite a while before you start to notice that your nervous system starts to relax a little bit. And then you're going to say somewhere in there, within the like 5 to 10 minutes that you're talking straight to camera, you're going to find this one bit that's like so good. And all I want you to do is just like trim it down to that little bit. And that becomes your talking to camera content for that day. And bit by bit, you become more articulate. And bit by bit, you're like, oh, I really like that bit that I said just there. Maybe that would go with that. And then you can start to piece things together. But in the beginning, nothing ever makes sense. In the beginning, you start like fumbling your words and you laugh at yourself and you're like, you have massive gap moments. You can trim and edit those things out. It's very rare, even though I will record this podcast right now that I'm talking to you on. I'll record it all in one go, but there are some little bits that I will trim out of it because I stumble over my words for a little bit. Sometimes I'm like thinking about what am I going to say next? I don't know. And I'm still building up what I'm actually saying. And that is so fine. I know that if I can get this done in about a 20-minute block, then I know that there's a good 15 minutes at least that's inside that 20-minute block. And that for me is perfection. That for me is the greatest thing that gets to go out there because it's in my voice, it's in my authenticity, and it's speaking directly to the people who I love to help. That is the main thing, okay? That is why we do this. We need to overcome the self-doubt in order to become better. And it's not better as in like you have to be the best at this. It's better so that you can actually open your heart and be who you truly are. I think the professionalism of our profession, industry, whatever you want to call it, the naturopaths and nutritionists really need to learn to relax. They really need to learn to just be themselves instead of like wearing this professional mask and not being able to be themselves. I think that puts up such a barrier between us and our clients. And I always call them clients because no one is my patient. No one is waiting on me to fix them. I work with them. And I know that's a massive mindset shift that we just went through this week in Woman of Value. But it is such a sigh of relief because you cannot actually fix anyone. It's not up to you. It's not your responsibility to know everything. It is your responsibility to do the best of your ability. And I believe you bring that when you bring yourself. 70% of the healing that occurs inside a consult happens because they believe you. It has nothing to do with your credentials, even though we need credentials, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. If they believe you because you're being authentic and you've learned how to articulate yourself instead of trying to like be Miss Perfect and like have everything together all the time, our clients want to know that you're human. They want to know that they can open up to you. They want to be able to trust someone. If they can't trust you, who can they trust? So I want you to take this and go, okay, great. What evidence am I currently building of my current identity? If I choose to keep going down the path of being an imposter, which you are not, by the way, you are learning new skills. Let's see that as like step one, step out of the imposter and into, okay, everyone, I'm learning a new skill. The new skill is, and you can insert whatever that new skill is. I know I've used the talking to camera because that's a really prominent thing in our industry. But it might not be talking to camera for you. It might be learning to articulate yourself. It might be speaking from the heart. It might be you learning to trust yourself and actually be able to articulate what you want to say to your client in a way that they actually understand it. So I want to say this as well. And this will probably remove a lot of your self-doubt because in uni, as a student, you had to explain everything in scientific terms, right? And that's why I actually think that they've set you up for disaster just from that, just that little bit. Because when we get out into the real world, we have to explain it like we would to a 10-year-old. Like, can you simplify things enough that you're not still speaking in biochemistry. You're speaking in metaphors. You're speaking in such a simple way that no matter who you're talking to, a child or an adult, because most adults never move beyond grade 6 reading and comprehension level. Remember that. So if they're sitting there and they're blank-faced, there's a reason for it. They don't get what you're saying. So it's really important that you learn to articulate yourself. It's really important that you remove this imposter thinking you've got to be a professor presenting at the symposium. No, you do not. You need to learn how to speak to the masses. You need to learn to simplify things. And as soon as you've done that, that person's like, oh my God, I really get that. Oh, thank you so much. And they get so much out of it. And guess who trusts you now? They do. Guess who wants to work with you longer term? They do. And guess who builds trust in herself? You do. So it actually serves everybody. The more you can step out of the self-doubt and into the kind of unknown bit, whatever skill set you're learning to build, you close that gap inside the nervous system where you go, okay, I'm learning this, I'm willing to learn this, and I'm going to keep going until it feels like second nature. And then you simplify the heck out of it. And then once you've done that, guess what happens? You seem like a total professional anyway, because people are like, how do you know so much? They're like, you said that in such a way that I'm thinking maybe it's quite complex, but you've just made it so simple and easy for me to understand that. And guess who gets on board then? They're not looking at you with these like deer in the headlights face anymore. They're looking at you with like, I'm on board with this. I get why I need to do this. Thank you so much. I'm ready for my results. And then everybody's happy. You're happy because you can explain it. They're happy because they get it. And then everyone's happy towards the end because everyone gets results. So you can see why overcoming imposter syndrome / self-doubt / worrying about do you know enough is a really, really important identity shift. So I hope that you take away today that number one, you need to take the first step and do the thing, as scary as it feels. Number two, you need to be willing to get some feedback so that you can improve. And number three, you go again. And you keep going again in a quantity fashion until you can bring out more quality. And that is it. That is it, my friend. That is all you need to do to acquire a new skill. And I wish you luck because you get to build your own luck. No one was built with lucky girl syndrome. You get to build the luck yourself and you build your own results and you then magnetize these most amazing people that you get to work with. So I hope that you've got a lot out of this episode today. I know I have. I loved this episode. And if you've enjoyed it, can you share it with a friend? Because if I land in more ears just like yours, I'm going to help more people. And that is part of my movement. So if you've loved it, share it, rate it, review it on whatever app you're on today. And I hope to be in your ears on the very next episode. Thank you so much.